Today on XPlay, we bask in PlayStation's bounty with a look at the most exciting Sony exclusives of 2022, like Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, and a game about a lost cat, Mr. Whiskers. Din Din, where are you, Mr. Whiskers? It's game time.
Greetings, nerds. Welcome to XPlay.
Do you know what the PlayStation 5 of consoles is, Hokage?
The PlayStation 5?
Correct! And do you know who now has a PlayStation 5?
That would be you, Frost.
Also correct.
Congratulations.
It's literally not an accomplishment of any kind, but thank you nonetheless. And to find out what we'll all be playing on our brand new PlayStation 5s next year, keep watching.
We break down the coolest PlayStation exclusives from 2022 and beyond. Check it out.
Sony, as Frost will probably point out, didn't have a ton this year. There was Ratchet & Clank, which was extraordinarily good, but really that was the only blockbuster title. There was Returnal.
Ratchet & Clank and Deathloop, I think?
Yeah. Deathloop wasn't exclusive. It was also on PC, which by being a Windows platform, I don't know, do we call that? I would just call it an exclusive. Jeff Keighley can tell me if I'm wrong. Next year is already looking much better. God of War, Ragnarok. To say that the last God of War was a modest success is a lie. It was huge. I think it really showed that Sony was defining itself as this place for incredible narrative games. Do you think lightning can strike twice?
Absolutely. Personally speaking, I'm under the belief that the God of War, even before this, the 2018 reimagining or God of War 4 really, something great about God of War 1, 2, and 3 is that it was always about the narrative was driving the characters and progressing gameplay with that mix-up, even with the PSP titles too. So with us and God of War 2018, the narrative was so strong. And I think it showed everyone that there is a place for narrative games in the modern era.
And it's not just Naughty Dog.
And it's not just Naughty Dog, right. I think we've been kind of stuck in that bubble of, it's got to be a BR, it's got to have microtransactions, it's got to have freemium models. And God of War had zero DLC. It had zero post-game plan. It said, this is the box that we built. It's as it is, and you enjoy it. And if it's the same team, which it is, and the same people are involved, guys, I think we're just ready to see what's going to happen in this Nordic environment.
I would go as far as to say it has to execute on that narrative, because the way that original 2018 ended, it was like a really good episode of anime or whatever TV show you watch, and it left on a crazy cliffhanger. Yeah. And it feels like we've been waiting for like the last 2 or 3 years, and it's like, if they come and they drop the ball on that, it's going to be devastating. But I don't think it's going to happen. And I agree. This is the first game that I played in a while where like I sat up and I really paid attention to it. Like I have a reputation where sometimes I talk over cutscenes while I stream, because like a lot of stories are not that interesting to me. They just get you from point A to B. I was thoroughly engaged in this world, so to see where it goes, I'm definitely looking forward to this one.
Looking back at that God of War, it was probably the most amazing, accomplishment in terms of it built off of the story that the other 3 games had created, and was a perfect starting off point, like where you really weren't going to be left in the lurch.
Not just the narrative, because obviously the story is very beautiful, but also just how smooth everything was from the combat and how powerful you felt wielding was so incredible.
And to that point, you, the most recent PS5 owner, if you go back and you play the old God of War now at 60 frames a second, it really feels like it's almost a brand new game. And that kind of like, not that I needed to get more excited about the new God of War, but it's like that beautiful, beautiful combat with a fluidity that just feels like that's what it really is supposed to be.
And I think they did a really good job of bringing you into this next version of it, to that point of the narrative being so incredibly strong with such strong gameplay. I feel like a lot of times now, especially, there's such a focus on either just the music be really good or the gameplay be really good or the narrative be really good. But in God of War, like every piece of it was so good. So it's not just like, oh, I'm ready to play the next game. It's like, I'm ready to experience the next part of the story, which I think is a much more visceral feeling than just sitting and playing the game itself.
This game made it show that, like, it sounds weird, but like violence can be beautiful. I was not a huge fan of the original God of War games. I liked them, but it was kind of like Kratos is just like, Zeus, I'm coming to kill you. But like in this new one, they humanized him and they combined that with the action. So then you had this beautiful violence as well as you're watching this man develop with his son. And like I said, it was a beautiful thing to me, and I really enjoyed that.
There is that tiny do I even want to say controversy? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it. When they revealed Thor, and it didn't look like Chris Hemsworth.
Oh my God.
And it actually looked like what a Lars Nordic person probably would look like. Yeah, he doesn't need to be in shape. He's Thor.
And I think people forget that Thor was a thing before all these comic books.
Also, there is such a thing as copyright infringement.
Yes.
Also, he's not real. So who cares? What are we talking about?
So yeah, I still can't figure out if that was a tempest in a teapot, or if that controversy even existed, if it was just one dumb person with one dumb tweet. Anyway, good. I'm glad we put that one to bed. The other aspect is that it doesn't look like it's going to be just within Nordic mythology. I think this is probably going to close down the story when you put Ragnarok in your title and you're not Marvel. That usually means the end, because it is. But yeah, you can start to see how this franchise could move into other mythological spaces.
I think is kind of nice, because God of War has done such a good job of bringing people into that Nordic mythology that may not have touched it or learned about it otherwise. And it's such an interesting space. And so being someone who becomes a fan of mythology, I think when you're exposed to other forms of mythology that weren't your initial jump off, you get more excited because you realize, oh, there's only like X amount of stories that can be told, and here's how Egyptian culture told them, here's how Nordic culture told them, here's how African culture told them. So like you become more familiar with, like, I guess, mythological tropes, and I think that makes it easier to gravitate towards.
I think it's a general consensus. God of War, yes, excited, tingly feeling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's move on. This is probably the one I'm even more excited about. Horizon Forbidden West. I keep on wanting to call it Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West, because most games have stupid titles like that. Remember, this is the game that came out at the exact same time as not just Breath of the Wild, but the launch of the Switch itself, but was such an out of left field accomplishment that it was able to sort of hold its own in the gaming discussion that was out there. Guerrilla Games, which have been kind of stuck making Killzone games for all of eternity, suddenly when it's like, what would you like to do? And they're like, we have an idea. And it was, it's not a perfect game. I think some of the storytelling issues are there and it's too big, but the fact that it's a bow and arrow game fighting big Zoids and trying to knock those things off, it might have been some of the most satisfying gameplay. I'm very excited to see where they're gonna go with this.
This game low-key scratches the Monster Hunter itch that I have. When I play Monster Hunter, I can acknowledge it's a good game, but I don't like the concept of actually hunting the monsters. I know it's in the title. I don't want to do it. I just want to fight them. So like in this game, it kind of scratches that itch. I get to the monster, and it's a giant set piece, and you got to sit there and memorize the different fighting patterns. So it scratches that itch for me, as well as I want to see what happened to humanity. And the actual storyline is very interesting in this.
Right, I was kind of saying that the storytelling leaves a little to be desired. It's more in the cutscenes, which I have every reason to expect will actually be far more sophisticated. You know, the technology was a little limited in the original one, but when you start to realize what happened to Earth, that part's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
In terms of like associating Monster Hunter to Horizon, I feel kind of the same avenue, but Shadow of the Colossus to Horizon. I feel like they kind of existed in, not like spiritual successor, but this is what I always wanted Shadow of Colossus to kind of like in its polished form look like, which it is really about that combat and that movement and feeling like you are able to take down these type of beasts and the power that comes from that, and then making sure that nothing of the gameplay element gets in the way of that experience.
And this one's coming soon.
Sony is definitely the Sony of game console companies. So many incredible games to look forward to.
But we're not done. We're going to stretch this PlayStation exclusive games talk all the way into another block of the show.
Stay right there.
If you really want to win this, we should do the freeze drive ritual! Silence!
TBH, the elixir.
Elixir? I brought Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper is the elixir.
At SteelSeries, we make the headsets, mice, and keyboards that the world's best gamers win the most with. And we've been doing it since way back. It's up to you how far you go, but whatever you do, go for glory.
Hi, thanks for joining the Payne Motors quarterly earnings call. And now I'll turn you over to our new CEO.
The numbers last quarter were rough. Mea culpa. Well, not mea culpa, actually. Vea culpa. Let's sell the crap out of this car.
It looks like the car was assembled by a spider on LSD who also had bad taste.
It tested well.
American Auto premieres January 4th on NBC and watch 2 episodes now on Peacock.
Welcome back to XPlay. More PlayStation, huh?
It's the only way to keep the PlayStation Defense Force appeased so they don't mob us on social media.
It's a good thing Sony actually has a lineup we're talking about for once.
Oh my God, Gerard, you're a dead man walking.
But at least we'll be surrounded by these cool titles before I go. Let's check it out.
So our third game, this one's interesting. Forspoken. It's from Square Enix. It's an open world game. It's kind of a fish out of water time travel story. It's got parkour. It's got some fantasy. It's definitely unique in its own thing. Anyone have any thoughts on this one?
So, God of War and Horizon, those are ones that you've got them preloaded. You know, you've already bought them. I know that everyone's against pre-orders. You're pre-ordering them. I know that you are. Let's not lie to ourselves. That's what you're going to do. You get them immediately and you play them. Forspoken, you're waiting a bit. You're watching some reviews. You're maybe waiting for a set. That's how I kind of already think about this game. I'm like, it's interesting to me. Maybe it'll be like a hidden gem and really fun, but otherwise there's nothing that, especially in a sandwich between those other 2 titles, I'm like, I can wait and see how this will play out.
I think from a gameplay standpoint, I would disagree. Like, I've seen enough to where, like, okay, I'm interested. The way she's moving around the environment is very intriguing. I love games where there's crazy parkour and traversing the environment. What actually is holding me back from pre-ordering it is every time they've shown this game, that frame rate has been very shaky. And that's what's kind of holding me back. I'm like, it's looking like there might be some optimization issues. So like for me, I'm on the same ballpark with you, just for different reasons.
There's a fly on set right now.
Sorry, I try to act like it doesn't exist.
It's been so
actually. All that water you've been drinking wasn't just water.
What are you swatting at?
We needed to kick it up a notch here on the old XPlay.
Fly wants to speak. He has an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like, and this is as of today's taping, there was a press event for Forspoken, and the fact that they are using a woman of color as the lead. That maybe
from New York, apparently.
Yeah, that they might have, the Final Fantasy 15 team might, in an effort to be more representative of people who play games, might also be a little reductive in how you handle those characters. So there might be, once again, I wasn't there for the press event, so I'm only going off of some of the reports I saw. But yeah, this game seems to have a little bit of trouble that's following it as well. And I guess time will only tell if anything's going to be revealed.
Stuff like that, I think it can be so nuanced that it's hard to give opinions on it before you actually experience it in its entirety, because there might be something in the first second that you see it, it's like, whoa, this seems like it's a little out of left field, but you need to play the next 10 minutes to understand the story or metaphor that's being
explained. Who it comes from, too, also matters, too, because, like, you know, one of the most fascinating things was the release of Mafia 3. When that game came out, if you went and watched reviews, nobody mentioned how just That's probably the closest thing I've seen in a video game to black representation, bro.
Yep.
Talk to me.
Nobody
mentioned that in a review, except for me, in my personal review. I found that to be fascinating.
Can I just tell you how satisfying it was to play that character and walk into a store that said whites only and punching everybody?
Yes.
It was. That was.
It's one of those games
really satisfying.
If you've never played Mafia 3, it's one of those games. From a gameplay standpoint, it is a little redundant and generic in terms of open world, but the story, it freaking goes there, and I loved it. I was like, yes, this is what I want to see more of.
Now, I don't know if there's any other games that you guys are interested about. One that also is a PlayStation, kind of a PlayStation exclusive.
What's wrong, Frost? You
good?
You were having a.
Say the word, Adam. Say it.
What word?
The secret phrase with the game that we're really interested in. It starts with a K.
No. Oh, that?
Yes.
No, I was thinking Ghostwire Tokyo from Shinji Mikami because I love Shinji Mikami. This is the last of the Bethesda games that are going to be like Deathloop that were made exclusive to PlayStation. But this comes out soon. Once again, it's Mikami. It's horror. It takes place in Tokyo. It's one of those games that, just like Evil Within, where it's like, I don't even know what it's going to be probably until I have it in my hands. But Mikami is one of those developers who I will follow into the gates of hell. I have so much confidence in him that it gives me the tingles. Anything for you? Maybe it involves a K?
Knights of the Old Republic.
I was thinking the Kingdom Hearts, and I got scared.
I thought you were going to say Knack 3, and I was going to go, we have to have a conversation.
That is intervention time.
There's a Knack community out there, man. They keep talking about it.
They keep talking about it. They love it. They hate it. The Knack representation is real, folks.
All I'm saying is that as a proud owner of a PlayStation 5, just got it. I've bought only PlayStation 4 games for it so far. I'm really looking forward to the two big all-stars of God of War and Horizon, and I would just really love to round that one out with the Knights of the Old Republic. That will just make that one feel so good. Just sliding that little disc in there, just being like, yes, I will save you.
And I think one thing I did not realize is that it's not going to be available on Xbox, which is, you know, you have educated me on that. Anything else for PlayStation that's got you aflutter?
You know, I said a couple weeks ago, I'll say it again, I still want more info on part 2 of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Very excited for that. Agree. You know, obviously the PlayStation company over the years has been the JRPG box of Square Enix and Final Fantasy. They kind of go hand in hand. So I'm glad to be playing those games nowadays and seeing those new titles from Final Fantasy stuff.
Any other favorites for you?
This is my wild things. All I have is wild things. I would love, remember PlayStation All-Stars?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Would mash that up with Dynasty Warriors. And you get to travel through all these different characters' games in a beat-em-up style with whatever character you choose.
I'm not gonna yuck your yum, but that is a weird kink.
No.
I thought you were gonna say PlayStation All-Stars 2. You went somewhere else.
I just need Dynasty Warriors games.
Free DLC.
Yeah. TBH, any game that you're also excited for?
Not a game, but I hope that rumor about the Game Pass for PlayStation being a thing is real.
Yeah, I think my wild prediction, not that it exists, I have every reason to believe it exists, but that at launch, it's going to be awesome. Because I'm not fully confident that Sony always has the right idea and then the execution kind of goes a little bit hinky. But man, their library of games is so good, especially if they remaster some PS1 stuff. It can be really neat.
I just wanted to also, not just because we want it on PlayStation, just from a consumer standpoint, it also is going to force, I mean, Microsoft is already doing great, but it's going to force them to do even better, then it's going to force PlayStation to do better. So I just want to see them go head-to-head continually. That's what I want for consumers.
Yeah. We got one that's more of a possibility. What was the game where you had the power? Infamous?
Infamous!
Yeah, more Infamous.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I want more of that too. But you know, the team that made Infamous made Ghost of Tsushima, which was the most successful new IP ever, I believe.
Ghost of Tsushima is one of the greatest games to come out in the last 10 years.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
It's a top 5.
Can I give a speculative one?
PSP?
Can we get a Jack 4? I'm so tired of Naughty Dog and these ultra serious games. Like, Last of Us, it was all right. Uncharted's cool. I'm ready to return to Haven City. I'm ready to collect precursor orbs. Dark, light, eco.
Let's go.
You know what?
Let's go.
Let's Jack 4. They were printing money if they made that game.
Jack 2 remade with actual physics that make it fun.
A remaster of that fixed certain aspects of the game. Yes.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in PlayStation's near future. So thank you all for joining me for this discussion about things real and probably not probable. Keep an eye out for any announcements and reviews about these upcoming games right here on the XPlay.
Horizon Forbidden West, Ghostwire, God of War, Forspoken, a game about a stray cat, and Insomniac apparently making a game about every Marvel character I love? That'll do, Sony. That'll do.
But what's on the opposite end of the gaming spectrum from these AAA big budget bangers?
Indie games.
We give you the heads up on the latest indie games that you must play right after this.
What's the recipe for surprising the kids, treating yourself, and ditching dish duty? You're looking at it. Order your Pizza Hut faves like Original Pan, Original Stuffed Crust, and more at pizzahut.com. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
The elixir!
Elixir? I brought Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper is the elixir.
5 breadsticks for my triple treat. 3 layers deep, 10 Cinnabon mini rolls to eat. And the pizza plus another pizza. The triple treat box, only from Pizza Hut.
Welcome back to XPlay. I love indie games. I've been a huge supporter of independent game studios for years and years. So it's particularly fun to get to showcase some of the hidden gems that you absolutely must play. Here's a gaggle of folks with great taste recommending some of the best under-the-radar titles you need to play for the rest of the year.
Okay, so I'm gonna go first, and the game that I picked is called Sable. Now, if you...
Oh, this game is so good.
So Sable is about a kind of nameless character, I guess you're called Glider, in a open desert world that is absolutely beautiful with its art style and art direction. And you come from this really tiny village that you ultimately then leave to go on a journey of exploration and discovery. It plays very similar to Breath of the Wild in terms of its kind of movement and puzzle base. It doesn't have combat, but it's mostly puzzle, mobility, exploration based. Super soothing, very calm, really well polished, with a lot built out into its game. You have inventory, you can change costumes, you get to build your own glider plane called, I pronounce it Simoon. Do you know how it's supposed to be pronounced,
Your
Gerard?
guess is as good as mine.
And the music, the sound design on Sable is so good. The game is just really, really moving. So I know that I compared it to Breath of the Wild. It's kind of if you take Journey and Breath of the Wild and mix them together. I have never been emotionally impacted by a game as much as I really was by this one, and I really highly recommend.
It's also on Game Pass right now. So if you haven't got a chance to play it, now is the time to dive in.
Cool. So, for my pick, I'm gonna go with a game that is fun, and it's also a fun title to say. Azure Striker Gunvolt.
Let's go!
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is the team that worked on the Mega Man. I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
You go.
Okay. So the reason
I'm obsessed with games. Go.
I love this game because I'm a big fan of Mega Man X and an even bigger fan of the Battle Network. So randomly I came across this game on Steam. I was like, oh, this looks like Mega Man. If you are a Mega Man X fan, this will scratch your itch, man. The art style is amazing. It sticks to that kind of old school pixel art style, but it's still kind of got that buttery smoothness to it. If you're looking for a game that's gonna give you a fair, fun challenge, the first half of the game wasn't that bad, but the second half of the game, I was sitting up in my chair because you really have to learn the patterns of the characters similarly like Mega Man. This is seriously one of the best like platformer kind of games that I've played. An easy recommendation if you're looking for that style of game.
All right, I'm gonna go with a game that I think I saw just pop on the social for like 10 minutes. It's called Unsighted. It's on Game Pass. It's closer to the Vania part of Metroidvania. You do go back through other areas, but it's also got a time limit on it. And that usually would be something that would be something of a turnoff, but it's so clever how it's implemented. Is that you're not gonna finish the game completely on your first go through. So you just kind of know that from the start. And there's characters you're gonna need to save the world, and you kind of get to know these characters and how long they have to live.
This is fine.
So you don't just want to do it within the time limit. You want to do it even shorter than the time limit because that will have ramifications. It's also like I said, free on Game Pass. This is what I think indie games are good for. It's like there's some experimentation here that works, and no one would have taken this chance with a larger budget. And yes, blood, sweat, and tears.
It's on Game Pass. Go play it.
My pick is a game called Florence. And so I know that everybody picked games where you got controllers and you're running around and you're shooting stuff. There's bullet hells, things like that. This is one of the most interesting video game experiences that I've ever had in my life. What happens is you go through the story of a relationship, finding someone that you're interested in, getting into a relationship with them. What happens while you're in this relationship? You end up breaking up, and the way that you get through this game is with puzzles. So when you start to argue with your other, you have to put together these puzzles so you can get to the next part of the conversation. So you're arguing, and as the argument gets more intense, the pieces of the puzzle begin to get more jagged and harder to put together. This is a game where I sat with my phone and I cried. I cried playing this game.
Give it up for emotional intelligence.
If you are a human who has had any sort of romantic relationship with someone and it's ended poorly or ended great or whatever it was, you've experienced these emotions, and so to be able to go through them translated through this vehicle that we all love, video games, was something that I wasn't really prepared for.
That was great. I almost don't want to go. That's such a great note to end on. But I will reveal my choice. Everyone remembered the whole Kickstarter hype behind the game Yooka-Laylee, but what people didn't recognize that there was another game that came out called Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. This is a love letter to Donkey Kong Country games, made by a lot of the original team that worked on those games. This game, if you are like, I like tough platformers, I love tough games, this is for you. This is a legit great platformer. It's called the Impossible Lair because the Impossible Lair is the last level in the game. So the idea is that you go to this Impossible Lair, you fail right out the gate, and then it's like, hey, you need to go to these worlds and collect these tokens to upgrade to get these bees, and these bees represent your hit points. So when you go to the Impossible Lair, you'll have all these bees protecting you. So the idea is that you go and you can basically beat the game whenever you want, provided your skill level is adequate to it. So if you actually complete the game and get further in progression, you get all of this ammo and arsenal to basically continue your survivability in the Impossible Lair. And the Impossible Lair, no pun intended, is really impossible. It's very, very rough. It took me about 32 hours to beat it without any bee support, and it was rough, but highly recommend if you're a fan of the Donkey Kong Country franchise.
God bless your heart.
Yeah, it's great.
Really good. Now, just to clarify, it's
It's sold as a standalone game.
It's a standalone game. It's not connected to Yooka-Laylee.
Okay.
In terms of gameplay, I mean, it's in the same universe, the same characters. Yeah. So if you played Yooka-Laylee, you're gonna recognize a lot of these characters. But Impossible Lair is its own standalone game. Again, if you're a big platformer fan, this is it.
There you go, everyone. Between those 5 games, your plans for the rest of the week should be all sorted out.
I'm tired of talking, so guess what? That's our show.
For some reason, that wasn't enough XPlay for you, and God, what is wrong with you if that's true?
Check us out on our G4 TV YouTube channel for our live show every Tuesday.
Plus merch. Do you need a hoodie? You can buy one from our store. Sorry, they only have ones with our logo on it, but maybe you can wear it inside out or something?
Stay safe out there, everybody. Peace.